Feeling locked into your longboard is one of the most vital sensations that you can experience while practicing freeride or downhill. Now, the term locked in just describes the sensation of having your feet planted on that board and feeling like they're not going anywhere. There's a lot of ways to achieve that sensation, and for each rider, it's different. Some riders get that sensation from finding a place on their board where their feet engage with the concave in a really positive way, a place where they feel like they can press into the concave and the curvature of the board itself is enough to support them through slides and turns. Other riders achieve this through having really sharp grip tape. Some riders even achieve this by modifying their shoes to have brake soles. And somehow that makes you feel more locked in, and I'll get into why. Now, if you're struggling to feel locked in on your board, I really want you to deeply consider why that might be. Most freeride wheels, freeride wheels being on the 70 millimeters or smaller side, something narrow with 50 millimeters or smaller contact patch, and a urethane and a lip profile that's pretty slidey and pretty forgiving. On most freeride wheels, you really don't need anything extravagant to get locked in and to keep traction on your board during corners and slides. And so if you're having trouble staying on your board in those scenarios, if your feet are sliding off despite being on relatively slidey wheels and being on a board that is made for downhill, then you may be struggling simply with technique. There's a lot of work that beginners often overlook and they try to correct with gear. And we're in this super cool sport where there is a crazy variety of gear. There's so much stuff that we can try, but none of that is a substitute for good practice. Now, I started using brake soles when I found that I couldn't reliably slide my race wheels. My feet would constantly slide off my board, and I spent months trying to get used to that feeling, trying to find a point in my concave on the board where I could keep my feet and I could really press into the concave and I could be really conscious about where my feet go and how much weight I have distributed foot to foot, toe to heel, and still I wasn't able to feel 100%. I made a lot of improvement, which is why I recommend you work on your technique before getting upgrades like grip tape and brake soles. However, for me, it was what enabled me to ride wheels like the Quay Killers or the Hogs Cheetahs. And I feel like I wouldn't have been able to actually get to the limit of these wheels without them. Now, if you've made a lot of those assessments, you've considered what wheels you're riding, you're considering all the technique changes that you've made, and you've worked hard, but you still aren't staying locked in on your board when you need it most, then I'm pleased to announce that there are some great upgrades that you can give yourself that will help you adhere to your board better. First one being upgraded grip tape. You can see on this Zenit Marble 40, I've got the stock grip tape up here, but then I've got a line and there's a different grip tape on the dirtiest part of the board, which is the part of the board that I'm standing on most. Now, this is Vicious Clear grip tape. This is not an endorsement of the product. This is simply saying what I'm using in this instance, in this scenario. This is not my recommendation to go out and buy Vicious. In fact, I think it's kind of a problematic product. However, it's what I used on this board at the time. This grip tape is notably sharper. It's got bigger rocks in it. And if you look really closely, you'll notice your grip tape is just made up of pieces of sand, because at the end of the day, this is sandpaper. All of this is sandpaper that we use. And fortunately, with sandpaper, there are different sizes of grit, and the different sizes of those correspond to how big the tiny rocks are on your board. A lower number, say a 30 grit or a 24 grit or a 40 grit, is really sharp in terms of longboarding. Even in terms of sandpaper, you're not often using sandpaper that sharp. That is gonna really dig into the soft material in your shoes and really allow you to stick to your board better than something like this, which is probably, I don't know, I'd wager an 80 grit sandpaper. This is just the stock sandpaper that came with this board. And I upgraded it because I found that while I was practicing my toe side slides, my back foot was constantly slipping to the other side of the board. And that was resulting in a lot of high sides because I couldn't reliably finish a slide with my feet in the same position as when I entered. So I upgraded the grip tape and I noticed I got a confidence boost. I was able to practice that more efficiently and have success more regularly. Now, I still had to work very hard on my toe side technique to achieve good slides, safe slides, reliable slides. However, when I identified the problem of my feet slipping, despite my best efforts to keep it on, then grip tape was the first place I looked to upgrade that. If you're looking for a product sharper than vicious, perhaps you have vicious on your board already and it's really just not keeping your feet in place, there are some other things to consider. One, if your grip tape is old, or perhaps you're on secondhand gear, it could be worn out. All those sharp little rocks that dig into the soft parts of your shoe, they can get blunt over time, just like any knife. And unfortunately, we don't have any way to sharpen our grip tape. So the simple thing you can do is just put on new grip tape, especially in the zones that you stand most. I mean, in fact, if I were to re-grip this board, I would just put a small square of grip tape where this first dark patch is, and another square of grip tape where the second dark patch is. Alternatively, you can look at sharper options. Now, it's pretty universally understood that seismic locked-on grip is the sharpest and most durable currently on offer. Now, it was recently kind of contested by Quay Grip, but if you look at Downhill 254's review, he says that he still prefers locked on in really high pressure scenarios, high force scenarios, and on boards where he's using fresh grippy race wheels. And so this is my recommendation for the top of the line product that you can use. This is the second board I've had with seismic locked on it, and I can confidently say that I fucking hate applying this stuff. It is miserable to apply, and partially that's my own fault because I opt in to buying the full sheets of locked on, not because I think they're any better. If you go shopping for it online, you'll notice that there are two styles. There's actually like 5 styles, but there's the full sheet grip, and then there is also grit with cuts in it. It's got holes, and that just helps it better conform to the deck. And you may have a really hard time getting this to stick to your board, and sometimes no matter how much effort you put in to do a good job and to properly treat the grip tape before applying it, it may still peel off. So locked on, unparalleled grip, unparalleled traction on your board, but of all the grip tapes I've ever used, most miserable time trying to cut it and modify it and get it to stick to my setups. And the more complicated your concave, the worse off it gets. It gets really bad if you try to get like a drop with some curvature and then some double, oh, it's miserable. Another thing for people who like to do tricks on their boards is that brake soles and very sticky grip tape limit your ability to rotate and pivot and slide your foot on the board. That could be really hindering if you're trying to do certain dance moves or trying to do certain flip tricks. A really sticky grip tape is going to grab your foot when you are trying to flick off the board. A really sticky grip tape is going to grab the material of your shoe, very different to a traditional grip tape, and you may have to rework your tricks, re-practice, relearn them. Having crazy locked-on grip tape from Seismic on this board would kind of be inappropriate for me because I like to do tricks on this board. I like to dance. I like to move my feet around, and I'm ready to compromise that a little bit to upgrade to the clear Vicious grip tape. Kind of a mellow grip tape in the grand scheme of things, but better than the stock grip tape. But I'm not going to go all the way to the crazy sharp Seismic because I know that the way I want to use this board is going to be compromised in some ways, just for the benefit of when I use this for downhill. So yes, we've looked at simply upgrading your grip tape to something sharper. Now, I want to say there is another step beyond that. And no, I'm not going to get into concave modifications, implants. That's really highly personal and customizable. This next solution is something that you don't have to modify your board in order to actually experience the benefits from. And this is putting brake soles on your shoes. Brake soles are not a new innovation, despite what people may think. They've been in longboarding and gravity sports for a very long time. If I understand this correctly, they were first used in street luge because the main form of braking in street luge is by planting your 2 feet on the ground and putting weight on them, forcing them on the road to act as just a friction brake with the ground, and that's your way of stopping. Where they would put big, thick hunks of rubber to the bottom of their shoes. oftentimes just layering and piling it up like crazy until they had this huge, ugly block under their shoe. But it was effective. It got them the braking performance they needed, and it was much more durable than the material used in almost every single shoe. Now, before sliding was a mainstream practice in racing, the fastest way to go down any track, a track that you had to slow down for corners on, was to foot brake. And there are a lot of styles of foot braking, but all of them are planting your foot on the ground and putting weight on that foot. And of course, that is a way to eat through your shoes. Now, the luge brake soles, those really huge blocks and the crazy mods, that's no good for stand-up riders. By stand-up, I just mean anybody who stands up on their board to go down the hill as opposed to sitting or lying down. For stand-up riders, we have concave, we have curvature in our boards, and we like to feel that. We like to be able to feel the edges of our board and the unique points of curvature that tell us where our feet go. And so stand-up riders use much, much thinner soles on their shoes so they could still get feeling out of the board, but benefit from the increased durability of rubber and the increased friction that you get from that rubber surface on the pavement. Nowadays, people aren't foot braking nearly as much as they used to. With modern wheels, sliding is not only faster than ever, but feels better than ever too. It's a really big deal that popular race wheels often have a really high quality feeling slide. They manage to feel very controllable and smooth, and that wasn't always the case. However, they still manage to have crazy braking force, and they still manage to have a lot of grip. And that puts a lot of pressure on your feet to remain on the board. It's a lot of force coming through your deck to slow your entire body down. And so people that use brake soles started to recognize, I get so much more traction on my deck simply by having these on. My feet feel harder to move. It's harder to slide your foot around on the concave with brake soles. And that's honestly why a lot of people tend to dislike brake soles, is because it makes it very challenging to adjust your foot. And some people adjust their foot a lot for different slides, for different corners. And I seriously can't understate this. With a good grip tape and good brake soles, it is really hard to find a wheel that will still make your feet slide off that board under high sliding, high braking scenarios. Brake soles stick your feet to the board like bindings, not, adhesion sticky, not like if I had grip tape on my door here, I'd stick my shoe to it and it would stay. But when you put that force into it and that rubber interacts with the grains of your grip tape, man, it sticks so nicely. Another awesome thing is that rubber is crazy durable. Good rubbers are. Now, I have to say, not all brake soles are made equal. Unfortunately, Rogers Brothers seems like the most bang for your buck brake sole out there, because you can grip up a shoe. You can do a shoe for $5 each. I think you can buy 2 sheets for $10 or something like that. But really stay away from that, because the Rogers Brothers material breaks down like nothing else. It is not durable. I've heard much higher things about urethane burners, and in my own experience, free brake soles have lasted me a long time. The rubber in these soles is incredible. They give me amazing traction on my board, and they've easily doubled the life of my last pair of shoes, and maybe even tripled them. This is the first shoe I put brake soles on. This is the Adidas Busenitz, and unfortunately, this is the least favorite skate shoe I have ever used. Now, I recognize that this is a really popular shoe among downhillers and street skaters. I am not necessarily talking about its downhill and street skating merit. It's just that my foot doesn't fit this well. And odds are I bought a size smaller than I really should have. This caused me so much pain and discomfort, and I felt like I really had such little support in the heel. And as a result, the heel of my foot would slide around in the shoe under high braking and under high cornering, which really hurt my confidence and hurt my performance, because if my foot is sliding around in the shoe, it's almost no different than my foot sliding around on the concave of the board and changing how much leverage I have over trucks and where I have that leverage. And so my first and really biggest recommendation is put brake soles on shoes you love. Shoes you want to have for a long time, and shoes that even as they get ratty, even as the uppers start to wear and split and break, shoes that you want to repair and keep with you because they're comfortable and they give you a really good feeling on your board. Don't put them on shoes that hurt your feet. Don't put them on shoes that don't support your feet properly, side to side. Put them on something that you love. Otherwise, you're going to really regret it, because now you're going to have a bad shoe that you're stuck with for 2 times as long, or even 3 times as long. The free brake soles are about $40 or $38 if you buy them from Chase Hiller or Dinah Banks. You can message them on Instagram to actually get a pair for yourself. But they're expensive. That's a lot of money to invest in a consumable product, because brake soles are not forever, they're not permanent. But if I think about it, if this doubles the life of my shoe, that's like owning 2 sets of these Nikes, which are fairly expensive, and I'm gonna save money in the long run by using this. And then on top of that, that doubled life is actually gonna enable me to be a better skater, to skate at a high level, because I'm gonna have so much grip on my board as a benefit of this material, so much traction. That's gonna elevate the performance of this shoe for me. Now, there are some situations where you may not enjoy a brake sole. Now, they are adding height to your shoe. They are elevating you ever so slightly off of the standing platform of your deck. Now, that took almost no time at all for me to get used to, but that may be of a bigger trouble point for you. I haven't met anybody yet that tried brake soles and was like, yeah, it's not worth it. I don't like the extra bulk. I don't like that it makes my shoes heavier. It's not worth it for the extra grip and the extra life. Everybody that's tried these so far seems to have used them permanently from there on out. So yeah, that is a lot of detail about 2 ways that you can feel more locked in on your board, 2 upgrades that you can do to keep your feet planted on that deck and enable you to experiment with more foot positions, more stances, and more types of slides. I really hope this was of great use to you. Share it with your friends if they haven't upgraded their grip tape, or if they haven't gotten brake soles yet. Let them know what they're missing out on, and just join the club. I think having good grip tape and good brake soles are just 2 really important elements, 2 important upgrades that I honestly don't know why you wouldn't make.